The sun hung low over the hidden leaf village, casting long shadows across the training grounds where Naruto Uzumaki stood, panting heavily, his orange jumpsuit damp with sweat. Another grueling session with Kakashi had just ended, and though his body ached, his blue eyes burned with determination. He clenched his fists, frustration bubbling beneath the surface. No matter how hard he trained, Sasuke always seemed one step ahead, his prodigious talent leaving Naruto in the dust. "I gotta get stronger," he muttered, kicking a pebble into the nearby bushes. Nearby, Sakura Haruno watched him with a mix of sympathy and concern. "Naruto, you're pushing yourself too hard again," she chided, crossing her arms. "Even if you want to catch up to Sasuke, you can't just." I know. Naruto interrupted, waving his hands dismissively. "But I can't just sit around while he's out there getting even stronger." His voice cracked with desperation. The memory of Sasuke's cold dismissal during their last encounter still stung like an open wound. Kakashi Hatake, leaning against a tree with his ever-present book in hand, sighed and closed it with a snap. "Naruto, strength isn't just about raw power. It's about understanding your limits, and then surpassing them." His visible eye crinkled in amusement. "Though, knowing you, you'll probably just barrel through them headfirst." Naruto grinned despite himself. "Damn right." Before the conversation could continue, a sudden rustling in the underbrush made all three shinobi tense. A kunai, glinting unnaturally in the fading light, tumbled out from the bushes as if thrown by an unseen hand. Naruto frowned and picked it up, turning it over. The weapon felt different. The metal was colder than it should be, and strange symbols, unlike any sealing jutsu he'd seen before, were etched along the blade. "What the heck is this?" he muttered, examining it closely. Kakashi's eye narrowed. "That's not one of ours. And those markings." He trailed off, a rare flicker of unease crossing his features. Sakura stepped closer, her analytical mind already working. "It almost looks like a space-time formula, but it's incomplete. Or maybe distorted?" Before they could ponder further, the air around them warped violently. A figure clad in black, his face obscured by a swirling mask, materialized from thin air. His single visible eye, a Sharingan, glowed ominously. "That doesn't belong to you," he intoned, his voice eerily calm. Naruto's grip on the kunai tightened instinctively. "Who the hell are you?" The masked man didn't answer. Instead, he lunged, his movements a blur. Naruto barely had time to react before a kick sent him flying backward, skidding across the dirt. Kakashi was already in motion, his own Sharingan spinning to life as he intercepted the attacker with a kunai clash. Sparks flew as metal met metal, the force of their collision sending tremors through the ground. Sakura didn't hesitate. She channeled chakra into her fist and smashed it into the earth, splitting the terrain beneath the masked foe. He vanished, only to reappear behind her, his hand reaching for her throat. But Naruto was faster. A shadow clone burst into existence, intercepting the strike with a well-placed punch. The clone dispersed in a puff of smoke, but it bought Sakura the split second she needed to flip backward, putting distance between them. Kakashi's hands moved in a flurry of seals. Lightning blade. Crackling electricity surged around his hand as he thrust forward. The masked man twisted midair, the attack grazing his cloak as he phased through it like a ghost. Naruto's blood boiled. This guy was playing with them. Enough of this. He slammed his palms together, summoning a massive wave of clones. They charged in unison, a sea of orange and fury. The masked man weaved through them effortlessly, dispatching clones with precise strikes, but Naruto wasn't aiming to hit him, he was hurting him. With a grunt, Sakura saw the plan and acted. She hurled a barrage of senbon, forcing the enemy to dodge, straight into Kakashi's trap. A wire trap snapped taut, ensnaring the foe's leg. For the first time, the masked man hesitated. Naruto didn't waste the opening. He poured chakra into the mysterious kunai, feeling it vibrate in his grip. The symbols flared to life, and time itself seemed to stutter. The world blurred around him as he lunged, the blade slicing through the air, and then through something else entirely. The masked man's mask cracked. A sliver of pale skin and a widening eye were visible for just an instant before he vanished, retreating into the void. Silence fell over the battlefield. Naruto stared at the kunai, his heart pounding. Whatever this thing was, it had just warped reality itself. Kakashi's voice was grim. "Naruto. We might have just stumbled into something bigger than we realized." The kunai pulsed in Naruto's hand, as if agreeing. The air crackled with tension as Naruto tightened his grip on the ancient kunai, its jagged edge humming with an eerie, golden glow. Around him, the battlefield lay in ruins, trees splintered, earth upturned, evidence of the brutal clash with his shadowy adversary, a rogue shinobi named Kurotsuki, whose time-manipulating jutsu had already turned the tide of battle in his favor. Naruto's muscles burned with exhaustion, but his resolve hardened. He could feel the kunai's power pulsating in his palm, whispering of untapped potential. Kurotsuki lunged, his form blurring as he warped time itself, closing the distance between them in an instant. His fist rocketed toward Naruto's ribs, but Naruto twisted midair, channeling chakra into his legs to propel himself backward. The kunai's glow intensified as he slashed horizontally, a golden arc slicing through the air, and for a heartbeat, time stuttered. Kurotsuki's eyes widened as his own movement slowed, his fist freezing inches from Naruto's side. Seizing the opening, Naruto pivoted and drove a spinning kick into Kurotsuki's ribs, sending him skidding across the battlefield. But Kurotsuki wasn't done. With a snarl, he wiped blood from his lip and formed a rapid series of hand signs. The ground beneath Naruto erupted as jagged spikes of condensed time energy speared upward. Naruto barely dodged, flipping backward as the spikes grazed his jacket. He could feel the unnatural pull of Kurotsuki's jutsu, where the spikes struck, the very air aged, grass withering to dust in seconds. If one of those hits landed, it wouldn't just wound him, it would erase moments of his life. Naruto's mind raced. The kunai's power was unstable, flickering unpredictably. He needed control. Channeling Kurama's chakra, golden orange energy flared around him, his whisker marks darkening as he entered KCM mode. The nine tails growled in his mind, "Careful, brat. That blade messes with time itself, one wrong move and you might vanish before you even throw it." Naruto gritted his teeth. "Then I'll make sure I don't miss." Kurotsuki attacked again, his movements erratic as he phased in and out of time, striking from impossible angles. Naruto barely blocked a kunai aimed for his throat, the impact rattling his bones. He retaliated with a Rasengan, but Kurotsuki warped backward, letting the attack dissipate harmlessly. "You're too slow," Kurotsuki taunted, reappearing behind Naruto with a time-delayed explosive tag already activated. The blast sent Naruto hurtling forward, his body slamming into a boulder. Pain flared, but he forced himself upright. Then, inspiration. If Kurotsuki could skip through time, Naruto would disrupt his rhythm. Focusing chakra into the ancient kunai, he hurled it not at Kurotsuki, but at the space behind him. The blade's glow erupted as it pierced the fabric of time, creating a localized distortion. Kurotsuki's next time jump faltered, his body flickered, caught between moments. Naruto didn't hesitate. Surging forward, he formed a Rasen Shuriken, its screeching winds howling as he slammed it into Kurotsuki's chest. The explosion of energy sent shockwaves rippling through the battlefield, the ground fracturing under the force. Kurotsuki coughed blood, his cloak shredded, but his lips curled into a mad grin. "You really are something else." With a final, desperate motion, he slammed his palms together. The air itself seemed to fracture, a swirling vortex of distorted time forming above them. The very battlefield began to unravel, rocks floating upward, trees decaying and regrowing in rapid succession. Naruto's breath caught. Kurotsuki was burning his own lifespan to collapse time itself. Kurama's voice roared in Naruto's mind. "He's tearing reality apart. We need to end this now." Naruto nodded, his body screaming in protest as he pushed beyond his limits. Golden chakra erupted around him in a blazing inferno, his form shifting as he entered baryon mode. The air sizzled with raw energy as he shot forward, his speed eclipsing even Kurotsuki's time warping. Their final clash was a blur, fists colliding, space itself buckling under the force. Naruto's knuckles connected with Kurotsuki's jaw just as the kunai's distortion reached its peak. Time snapped back into place with a thunderous boom. Silence. Kurotsuki crumpled, his body finally giving out. The vortex above dissipated, the battlefield stabilizing. Naruto dropped to one knee, his vision swimming as baryon mode strain took its toll. But he'd done it. Panting, he stared at the kunai embedded in the ground nearby, its glow fading. It had been a gamble, one that nearly cost him everything. But in the end, he'd pushed past his limits, adapted, and won. As the dust settled, Naruto allowed himself a weary smile. The fight was over. For now. The air crackled with energy as Naruto and Sasuke stood back to back, their breaths ragged, their bodies battered but unbroken. The battlefield was a wasteland of shattered earth and swirling dust, the remnants of their desperate struggle against the time-warping menace, Kairo, who wielded the kunai of Kronos with terrifying mastery. Every strike they landed seemed to vanish into the void, erased before it could connect, while Kairo's attacks came from impossible angles, slicing through time itself. Naruto's fists clenched, his knuckles white. "We can't keep playing defense," he growled, his voice hoarse. "He's always one step ahead." Sasuke's Sharingan spun wildly, tracking the distortions in the air where Kairo flickered in and out of existence. "He's not just fast," Sasuke muttered. "He's rewriting the moments before they happen." The realization hit them both at once. Kairo wasn't just skipping time, he was editing it, snipping away their victories before they could manifest. Then, Naruto felt it, the faintest pulse from the kunai of Kronos strapped to his thigh, the one he'd found buried in the ruins of the Uzumaki shrine. It hummed as if resonating with his chakra, whispering secrets of time's flow. A reckless idea sparked in his mind. He met Sasuke's gaze, and without words, his rival understood. They had one shot. Sasuke lunged first, his rinnegan flaring as he summoned a storm of Amaterasu flames, black fire lashing toward Kairo in an inescapable net. Kairo smirked, flicking his wrist, the flames vanished mid-air, erased from existence. But that was the distraction Naruto needed. He channeled every ounce of Kurama's chakra into the kunai of Kronos, feeling time itself warp around him. The world blurred, and for a heartbeat, he existed outside of it, watching as Kairo's movements unraveled like a rewinding scroll. Now. Naruto reappeared behind Kairo, the kunai plunging toward his back. Kairo twisted, but this time, the blade didn't vanish, it connected, not with flesh, but with the fabric of time. A deafening crack split the air as reality splintered. Kairo's eyes widened in horror as his own power turned against him, his stolen moments collapsing in on themselves. Impossible. He snarled, but it was too late, the kunai had anchored him in a single, unchangeable instant. Sasuke was already moving, his chidori screeching like a storm as he drove it straight through Kairo's chest. The tyrant of time gasped, his body convulsing as the paradox of his own power consumed him. The kunai of Kronos shattered in Naruto's grip, its energy dissipating in a burst of golden light. Silence. Then, the world exhaled. The distortions faded, the battlefield settling into a reality that was finally, irrevocably fixed. Naruto dropped to his knees, exhaustion crashing over him, but he grinned through the pain. Sasuke stood beside him, equally drained but triumphant. "We did it," Naruto breathed. The aftermath was a quiet storm. Villages began rebuilding, alliances reforged in the wake of Kairo's tyranny. But something fundamental had shifted, time itself bore the scars of their battle, and whispers spread of moments where the past and future flickered at the edges of vision. Naruto and Sasuke, now bound by more than rivalry, stood as guardians of this fragile balance, their bond deepened by the weight of what they'd altered. As the sun set over the ruined battlefield, Naruto looked at the broken hilt of the kunai in his hand and smiled. "Guess we're not just saving the present anymore," he said. Sasuke huffed, but there was no malice in it. "TCH. As long as you don't make a habit of breaking time." The future was uncertain, but for the first time, it was theirs to shape.